to the cloud. All right, well, thank you guys for joining me. This workshop is just to chat through how to have an organized semester, how to get things on the right foot. I think a lot of times we're taught parts of organization, but I don't think that we are always taught the whole story and all the pieces that need to go together to really be successful. Obviously, college tends to be different than our K-12 education and things like that. So there are things that are different that I want to take the time to go over. The other piece to this is I hope that if you start your semester off strong and organized, that's actually going to reduce stress and anxiety later, so that you're doing your future self a favor. Obviously, some of this is going to be personal style. I don't expect everybody's to look exactly the same, but hopefully this will leave you with some information that if you're not sure how to start, this will give you somewhere to start off. There we go. So I just kind of wanted to ask you guys, we don't have to chat too long about this, but is organization something you feel good about? Is it something that you've always, been working on? How are you feeling going into this? I see Jasper giving me a so-so. Well, you, Charles, you feel pretty organized?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, good. And I'm happy to hear if you guys have feedback or your own suggestions as we go. I'm just one person, and some of the best ideas that I get to share with students come from other students. All right, so I do start with saying, some people are like, well, I've never needed to use a planner or a calendar before. Why do I need to start now? And I threw in some memes to try to make us chuckle in this, in this session, but there are times where we can kind of get through being unorganized. But if you are newer to college and being a student in this way, you might find that things are different than they've been before. Whether it's, sometimes in our jobs, it's very scripted and somebody's telling you what to do every day. Or in our K-12 education system, there's a lot of reminders and a lot of guidance. You'll find it in college, and especially with us being remote learning right now, so much of it is on us, is on our students to be the keeper of everything and being organized and all of that. So I do challenge people, even if you've never needed to use an organizational system before, now might be the time. The other thing is every semester is also different. You might have a really easy semester and you might not need it some, and then other semesters might be a lot heavier on you to determine. So, everything's individual. It's not the same from person to person or class to class. Looking at a little bit more of the details, what if I told you you can manage your time, better? I want you to lost my train of thought. It's because the record's on, I swear. The pressure of having to organize all that stuff, taking that and putting it in a planner, you're not having to worry about things as much. You know that it's written there. College is different, that weight is on you to keep track of dates. You guys know this already, but if it's in the syllabus, you're expected to know that. Faculty are happy to help, but if you aren't bringing up the questions, they're not always going to remind you. We do have some faculty that are wonderful and will send the reminders and reach out to you, but we just can't rely on that anymore. There's less or no time to work on assignments in class. And this is kind of comparing to those that are maybe right out of high school. I think a lot of times people are used to getting good grades because they were able to do stuff in a study hall or maybe at the end of class. And obviously that's not true anymore. Even when we're in person, typically you're not doing your homework during class time. Another big thing that I just want to emphasize is that you will have longer term projects than maybe you're used to. I think, again, our K-12 system preps us with your professor or your teacher will assign something one day and then it's due maybe the next day, maybe a couple days from now. where with higher education, you're definitely finding that they might be assigning something that's due months from now. And that's up to you to figure out, how do I want to organize my time in between and how am I going to utilize that? The final thing that I just want to chat with you guys about on this slide is, I know as a college student, I was definitely really guilty of having this wasted time. I felt like I should be doing something. So sometimes I wouldn't allow myself to do something fun. I can't go out with my friends. I know I'm supposed to be doing something. But then I was so disorganized at times that I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. So I was neither enjoying myself nor being productive. And that's the worst. Like, if you're going to not do your homework, I want you to at least be enjoying the time, right? And so I hope that this system, as we talk through it, is going to show you how I'm not just concerned as an academic advisor about you getting your work done. I want you to balance your family life, your social life, all of the things that you care about, because I want your mental health and your physical health and all of those pieces to be a priority as well. Any thoughts or questions or comments before I keep going?
No.
Okay. Turning off my space heater. All right. So the big thing that I want to start with is this idea of time management versus assignment management. Time management is, where does your time go? How much do I need to set aside for any given task? And again, that's an academic task or something that is for your personal life, whether it's cleaning the house, walking the dog, whatever it is. What time of the day is best for me to be doing these particular tasks? What time of day am I most likely to want to get up and do something, or am the most productive and it takes me less time? And are you leaving enough time for personal care and hobbies? Whereas assignment management is, what needs to get done? This is my to-do list. What are the deadlines? What tasks overlap? That's where we get into trouble with, I think, school sometimes. I think we've all had times where it seems like everything's due at once. And by hopefully some of the strategies we're going to talk about, we can spread it out better and alleviate some of that. What are the timelines for my assignments? What do I need to do to prep to be successful? And obviously we're talking even more in depth about this, but I wanted to break it down into these two categories, because if I ask somebody, tell me about your time management, they usually pull out their agenda book. And not that that's not valuable, but I think time management needs to be so much more than that. So this, if you are in our FYE class, this exact document is uploaded onto our Blackboard. You can also just Google hourly weekly planner. You are welcome to use iCal, Google Calendar, anything like that, if that's what's best for you. I always like to provide a template just so that if you're not tech savvy, you don't feel like you have to spend forever looking for something to download. The big thing that I need you guys to take away from this piece is that you are not expected to create a new week every week. This is something we do once, and it just gives us that outline of what our life should look like. So you're not going to put a specific doctor's appointment on here. It's more about, what does the flow of a typical week look like? I know for some of you, not every week looks the same. Do your best. Some of you, I know, well, I work 15 hours at the grocery store down the street, but it's not always the same 15 hours. Just do your best guess, pick something. It's more about seeing, this is how much work takes up, this is how much school will take up, this is where I want to put my family time, my personal time, stuff like that. And it helps us, at least I find, keep ourselves accountable, because when we see how full our life is, it's easier to say, I really can't procrastinate and save this for tomorrow, because tomorrow's already full. Or if your friends invite you out or a great opportunity comes up, okay, you know what? I really do have time later in the week. I can push this back and enjoy this time now, and I can feel good about it because I know where it's going to go later. So take the time and invest in this and make this a really kind of solid copy. So what's going to go on that? I won't make you guys, because it's only the two of you, brainstorm all on your own. but the kinds of things that we're going to want to put on here. Thinking about even the basics, eating, sleeping, work, class. I know we're not really commuting as much as we used to be, but commuting time, family time. You gotta think about things that are the same every week, the same every day. For the sake of this activity, especially if you're in class, I don't need it broken down as specific as this is when I brush my teeth and this is when I take my shower. Feel free to just do a general lump of like morning routine, afternoon routine. But there's sometimes those are things that we don't always take into consideration. Community commitments, pet care. These are all things that we need that have value, add value to our lives, and we need to make sure they're kind of allotted for and taken into account. And actually going back really quick, if you don't have one of these things, that's okay. Don't feel like you have to hit every bullet point that I talk about. Obviously, if you don't have a pet care is not going to be one of your items. If you're not involved in a community or religious group, that's not going to be there. It's obviously make it personal to you. People will have things that are on here that, I didn't even put on, and that's okay. That was just trying to help you start brainstorming. And I will share this PowerPoint if any of you are visual people and will want this to look over later. So you'll have access to that. So a lot of times I get questions about, well, how much homework time do I need to set aside? I will say, especially with virtual learning, it's a really weird kind of situation. It's hard to come up with a number. This kind of basic formula started for classes that were more traditional, and we've tried to alter it and add to it to kind of form in our unique situation. But you're always going to start with kind of the credit hours. And in theory, those credit hours are how long you would be spending in class for sure. If a class is super easy, it's sometimes 1 hour outside of class for every hour you're in. A really difficult class, you might find a 3 for 1. I'm going to say as an average, go for 2. So yes, you for most classes are going to be spending more time independently working on class than the time that you would spend in the classroom. And so if I'm taking a 3 credit hour course, times the 2 hours to spend on work, I'm doing a total of 6 hours of homework. Now we can see if this was a virtual class, we might need to add that class time back in. And so for a typical class, somewhere between 6 and 9 hours. And that seems like a lot. Now that's about the range that I want you to put on your weekly schedule. Are you going to need 6 to 9 hours every week? Probably not for every class. But the thing with that outline, that weekly outline that we're creating, where is it? This. It's going to help you in the busiest weeks, when it's finals time, when that big project is due, when it's midterms. You might need those full 6 to 9 hours. And that's why I want you to have it allotted. If you've done 4 hours and you're all done and you've done everything, that's great. You can use that time for something else. But I want this week to be set up to be able to accommodate anything the semester can throw at you. And that way, even in the worst case scenario, if I stick to this plan, I'll be okay. Hopefully that's, maybe give me thumbs up. Is that making sense? Do we have any questions at this point?
Question.
Sure.
If you have a tutor scheduled every week, do you figure that in as far as just regular homework time, or is that additional?
So that's a great point. It's definitely something I would want to see on your weekly outline. Let me jump ahead to this slide, because the other thing is, when I say we'll use 6 hours, like I don't have 6 hours of homework. No, you might not. But when I say homework, it's a general term for any reading I have to do for that class, any tutoring I might have, any papers I'm writing. any traditional kind of homework, office hours, group work, research, watching videos to understand the material. I'm just saying that outside of that class time, probably all of these different things together will add about 6 to 9 hours. So yeah, obviously that's counting towards your time. And I think, you know, it also leans on a caveat I hear a lot. Oh, well, I got the homework done in 30 minutes. But how well did you learn the information? And I'll be honest, it depends on how important that class is to you, is kind of my answer. If it's a course that is not for your major and you'll never need that information again, maybe you're okay to do the bare minimum and squeak by on an exam. But I will tell you, if that is a class for your major, Charles, I'll pick on you with vet tech. I mean, if you are going to need to recall that bio information or chemistry or whatever it is, you're going to want to take the time and make sure that it's not oh, I just crammed it in for the exam, but that I truly understand it and it's going to stay there because I'm going to need it later. And so for sure, sometimes people can totally get away with way less time, but I would consider just, is that going to hurt you in the long term? And I'm not saying you're doing that, but that's just how I kind of answer it when people are saying, well, Lauren, I don't need 6 hours. Some classes you might, some classes you don't. The other thing, when you are doing that hourly planner, please be aware of what works best for you. I just had this conversation with somebody. They said, you know, they start their schoolwork and their day starts around noon. They are not a morning person. You know what? Good for them. I don't know why our society puts all this emphasis on, you know, the high value of a morning person and that you're somewhat better if you can get up at 6 a.m. and work. As long as you are putting in your same hours and you're getting it done, it does not matter to me. If you do your best writing at 11 o'clock at night, then do your writing at 11 o'clock at night. And obviously someday you might have to work a job where it doesn't work. And at that point you might have to tweak it. But if you have the flexibility in your current life to work around when your brain is at its, you know, peak performance, then do that. Don't beat yourself up because you're not fitting what you think is the ideal mold. I obviously am not an evening person, and trying to teach at 5:30 is maybe not my peak performance, but I'm trucking through for you guys. So I talked about this, obviously all of these pieces, when I say homework, I'm referring to everything. All right, so that was kind of our time management piece. Any last questions or thoughts about how we're going to fill out that weekly planner? Again, especially if you're in our FYE class, if you like Google Cal or iCal and you want to do it like that, and then screenshot it and share it with me, that's fine. If you want to print it and do it by hand and take a picture, whatever is best for you. I am definitely not picky. So this is probably the piece that you guys are more familiar with, but let's talk about true like assignment management. This is, you know, in grade school when they're like, write it down on the paper. This is what they were talking about. The first thing you're going to do, and again, it's an assignment for FYE, but I hope that you guys see the benefit for this so much that you do this every semester, but I really recommend grabbing all of your syllabi, whether that's 1, 2, 5, however many you have, and grabbing your planner, your wall calendar. Again, it doesn't matter to me what you're using, and writing down everything for the full semester. It's going to take you more time for sure. It's not always the most glamorous activity. Maybe you can get some fun music in the background, grab some snacks. Typically when we're on campus, we'll even kind of sit down and do it together as a big group just to make it more of a social thing. But to not have to flip through every single syllabus every single day to figure out what's going on is going to serve you so well. I absolutely recommend it. Yeah, things might change. You might have things tweaked. You could open each packet every day or open it on Blackboard if you're a digital person. But to see it laid out in that chronological way, and it will really illustrate to you, oh, wow, you know, my bio class and my math class this 1 week, they really line up. I really need to be careful because that's going to be a crunch week for me. Those are only things you can see if you put them all in one place. So again, I'm a really big advocate for doing the full semester. So what are you going to do? You're going to grab your syllabi, class by class, and you're going to pull out every due date that's directly listed out. That's the easy part. Hopefully you have great faculty. They give you a nice little chart or something like that. And it's easy to figure out when everything is due. For every exam, I want you to also put a note in for when you want to start studying for that exam. If it is just a chapter exam, it might not be too far out. It might just be the week before. But if it's a cumulative exam and it's covering several chapters, you don't want that to sneak up on you. That's where, again, we go, you might be able to cram the night before, but long-term, it's probably going to hurt you. You're not going to be able to recall that information for the final. So long-term, you're not having that information really in your head. Same thing for large assignments. Obviously, like a weekly discussion board, you might not need to do this unless you find it helpful. But if you have a really large group paper, for example, or a group project, you're going to want to give yourself a start date, a middle date, maybe even a few kind of middle halfway point, things like that. Again, just so it doesn't sneak up on you. It's the one downside, I think, to a traditional weekly planner rather than a monthly calendar, because if you're only focusing on that week at a time, and if you don't have those start dates on you, it can be you turn the page and, oh my goodness, this 10-page paper is due. And again, the whole point of proactively planning is to hopefully reduce some stress and anxiety for your future self. And so again, give yourself some preliminary due dates, taking note of times where classes overlap and where work is really heavy. Not sure if I have a note for this later, so I'll just bring it up now, but also keeping in mind what resources you need. If you need to purchase and read a book, if you need to interview somebody for a paper, if you need to partner up with somebody, these are all things that we can't cram, right? If I wait till the night before to open the assignment and, oh no, I have to interview somebody in a particular field, it might be really hard to pull that off. So if nothing else, we want to know, give ourselves time to do that preliminary prep. If you need to find 5 research articles, probably can't do that the night before. We want to have at least that piece done. I usually get I don't want to write it down because, the due date's probably going to change and I don't want to have to cross it off in my planner. You're less likely to miss something if it's written in there. You're going to be able to see your busy times and due dates aren't sneaking up on you. I just think that these 3 points that I keep hammering home equal out the fact that you might have to white out or cross off or erase something in your planner. Again, my end goal is just to reduce stress for you. So bonus tip, what's my grade? I hear that a lot. Again, this is a lot different than a lot of situations that people have been in before. You may find it really helpful to be keeping track of your own grade. I think faculty right now are really utilizing Blackboard way more than they have in the past. When we were all in person, many classes didn't even use Blackboard. And frequently, for example, we'd be sitting in our lecture and we'd all get our exams back and we get to look at what grade we got and we get to flip through and see where we did well and where we didn't do well. And then the faculty would collect those exams because it would prevent cheating. They don't want them getting copied and cycled through the school. And then if I don't keep track of those grades, it's hard for me to remember how I'm doing in class. So as we're going through the syllabus, hopefully you're seeing how much weight each assignment or each exam has. This is 50 points. This is 100 points. When you're doing your planner, think about, how do I want to keep track of that? Do I want to make a chart somewhere? Or, if I wrote, okay, on Tuesday, the 27th, I have an exam. When I get the exam back, I write that down. Whatever system works for you. If this is really important, I'm happy to chat with you about what works for you, but it is important to think about, where do I want to write down my grades? How am I going to keep track of how I'm doing? If your faculty uses Blackboard and everything's in there, great. But just remember, especially when we get back to campus, that might not be the case. So again, I'm not gonna make the two of you chat too much amongst yourselves. Let me go back. But other thoughts on organization, questions you have, things that you know frustrate you. You know what, I will even, I'm gonna stop our share at this point. And I'm gonna stop our